Hi friends, welcome to Power to the Flower. My name is Kara and I am the owner of Power to the Flower. Power to the Flower is a design company that designs containers as well as small landscape spaces. And today I thought it would be fun to share with you a little project that I did with my church. All right, so what you're gonna need for this project is a container, potting soil, starter fertilizer, and plants that require the same amount of light and water. Everything that I have here is either from Lowe's or Home Depot. And this is a set of 2 baskets. I'll just share with you prices so you have an idea. It was $25 or so for the both, and they're plastic lined. So they actually say for indoor use only, but we're going to convert them to an outdoor use basket. Let me show them to you. They're so cute. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do with them when I found them, but now I do. Aren't these adorable? All right, so the first thing to think about is the container size and what size do you want to use. So this small one is 13 inches by 10 inches, and this big one is 15 inches by almost 12 inches. So both of these are a good size. If you want to water less, use the big one, but then you'll need more plants. If you want to water more often, use the smaller one. What the bigger pot offers to a plant is insulation, food, more water, and therefore less investment from your point of view in terms of taking care of the plant. So I would definitely go for something at least this big, because that means you'll not be having to water it every day. You might not have baskets at your house. Lowe's is where to go if you want to get some. You might have some other containers sitting around, and really anything's fine. I would say that if you're using something smaller than this, just know the plants might need watering more than once a day, because if we're going to be using food plants, they really need to be in the full sun, which will dry out the pot quite considerably if it's small. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, one thing someone might ask is, why don't you just put a pot inside the basket? And that is totally fine and a wonderful idea if that's what you would like to do. I personally like the feel of a full container where the dirt goes all the way up to the edge, because then the plants have a chance to explode over the container rather than feeling like they're kind of starting from a disadvantage because they have to explode over their container as well as another one that doesn't quite fit it properly. So for me personally, it's just personal preference. I like planting inside of the container directly if that's possible. The second thing to think about then is your plants and the design. Of course, there's lots of different ways to design a container, but something that's straightforward and easy is the thriller, filler, spiller recipe. So if you have a thriller, that's going to be the main plant, the plant that grabs your attention and you say, wow, that's a beautiful plant. Then you have a filler, which are the plants that kind of fill the space around, and then a spiller, which is a plant that falls over the edge of your container. So that's what the recipe that I'll be using today. I chose plants today that all require a similar amount of water, which is on the dry side. So these plants like to be watered, soaked, totally wetted, and then they want to just be left alone until the soil becomes dry. There's a couple ways to check that. You could stick your finger in the soil up to like your knuckle, and if it's dry, then the plants want some more water. Another way to check that is to use a moisture meter, which I just got one and I am loving them. With the moisture meter, you just stick it into the basket and it will tell you if it's dry, moist, or wet. And so with these plants that we're going to be planting today, they want to be dry before you water again. So what plants do I have? For our thriller, I have this Salvia. Salvia is another word for sage, and as you know, sage is a common herb. So we're going to be using this as our thriller plant because it has these beautiful purple flowers up at the top and this really beautiful dark green lush foliage. In terms of the plant selection today, I chose kind of things that just looked pretty, but also I was thinking about what's poisonous. So I just did a quick Google if I was wondering, is this plant poisonous, just to check that it wasn't before I put it in a basket where we're going to be adding food and we don't want to accidentally grab a leaf or something off of a poisonous plant. The next plant I purchased was BBQ rosemary. Now this is a fun little guy. It says it's called BBQ rosemary because you can use the fronds as skewers down the middle of your meat, and then it infuses the rosemary oil into your meat. So that sounds interesting. That certainly couldn't happen right now because this is a young plant and it's very flimsy. So I have 2 of these. This was, I think, $3, and I bought these from Home Depot. This will add some beautiful foliage and texture and a lovely smell. What I have here, we might not use all of these things, is a marigold. And marigolds are often planted with vegetables or in gardens because they're pest deterrent. That's the reason why I thought this would be a fun plant to add into our basket. Also, the purple and red-orange contrast was beautiful. I also have a Dusty Miller. This was another thing that I bought from Lowe's for $1, listed as $3, but in fact was $1 because they were trying to get rid of it. This is another plant that I thought, I love the silver foliage. These can grow quite tall, but what I like to do with them is pinch them off as they grow and then keep them quite low and bushy, which adds this lovely silver texture to the basket. And this is Thyme, and I just thought this looked so pretty. It doesn't have a name on it. It just says ground cover Thyme. And because it's spilling over the edge of this lovely container, I knew it would be a lovely spiller in our basket as well. The first thing to do is to cut the plastic so that this is going to allow drainage. So I'm just gonna cut a hole here. Probably if you use regular scissors, that would be easier. So if you're sad that your basket's gonna be ruined, then don't use a basket. But I think it's awesome because the plastic is gonna prevent the sides from being ruined and we'll just have a little bit of, water damage on the bottom, no problemo. Organic potting soil, but pretty much any potting soil would do. But you wanna make sure it says potting soil and not garden soil. And I'm just gonna put that straight in here. All right, the next thing to use is starter fertilizer. Starter fertilizer is really important to give your plants some food straight off the bat. You can buy starter fertilizer at Home Depot or Lowe's. I purchased this actually at Lowe's. You just follow the directions on the bag, which is listed right here. The next thing to think about is where is your pot going to go, or where is your container going to go? Is it going to go up against something, or is it going to be able to be seen from all sides? I'm going to plant this as if it's going to be seen from all sides. So I'm gonna put my thriller in the middle. So that's my salvia, my purple salvia. And I'm just gonna pick off any leaves that don't look awesome. Just to clarify, this salvia is not bred to be eaten. It's fine, it's in the sage family, but that's not the purpose. How much space to give the plants? I certainly add a lot of plants, but fewer at this time of the year than when I am doing like a fall planter, because there is a lot of growing that's gonna happen. So you just wanna be mindful of space. I wouldn't follow the spacing guidelines exactly on the plant, like this is gonna grow to 3 feet. We're not worried about that at the moment. If you want to transfer this plant to the garden eventually, that's a great idea. But I'm not planting this basket up thinking these plants are going to live in here forever. I'm going to do the marigold and thyme interspersed. So this is the smallest plant. So I'm going to put it kind of towards the front. And then this thyme, maybe right next to it, like kind of staggered. Then backfill if required. Another thought is just to make sure that you keep the soil well below the top of the plastic so that it doesn't overrun in between the plastic and the basket. And that's gonna keep your basket working great as an outdoor container for a really long time. This is what I would call a dry planting experience. I also have a couple pots here that would work really well if you wanted to grow something like lettuce or basil, which requires a lot more water. This has lobelia in it, as well as alyssum and some violas. All of these plants need to have a lot of water in order for success. I actually have them planted in this container, which is a self-watering container, so it's always in the wet zone on that moisture meter. Anytime you touch it, it's gonna be in the moist to wet department. If you were to add some lettuce in here, or perhaps some basil up the middle, that would look really pretty and the plants would be really happy together. So here's our May basket ready to be featured in a sunny location on your porch or patio, or as a gift. Let me talk to you about how this worked out in the end. So what ended up happening is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Dusty Millers surrounding the Salvia. These can be potentially large plants, and so when you feel like you want them to be smaller, you just give them a little snip right above a leaf. We ended up with 6 marigolds. You can't see them, only 4 were blooming at the time, but they will be blooming soon enough. And then I put in the 2 rosemary, one here and one over there, and then encircled the entire thing with the thyme. So I think that's going to turn into something gorgeous. We just have to give it a little bit of time, no pun intended. That whole basket cost about $40 to $45. So I hope this was helpful for you in terms of just inspiration and ideas as you think about putting together a May basket for your house or maybe for a friend. We'd love to see what you put together. Either post a picture on Power to the Flower Facebook page or comment below, because it's really fun to be in community with each other in this way. Thanks so much for joining me. See you